Mimi.
Yes.
My name is Ken Mijungu. I am an editor at KTN News.
Yes.
Podcaster now. And sometimes I read news.
Karibu sana Ken.
Asante.
Umechukua salamu?
Nimechukua salamu, by the way. And Kenyans have been really good. I woke up to around 700 WhatsApp messages,
Yes.
around 86 missed calls,
Yes.
and over 100 text messages.
Yes.
And out of all that,
Yeah.
only 3 messages were negative. Most Kenyans, all Kenyans in fact, were telling us to keep up and we should not be intimidated. So nimesalimiwa na pia wametuma pesa. Wametuma pesa, niko na 600 shillings, yoni soda 4. Nitanunulia mtai.
Tununulie soda.
Yes.
KIPKOECH TANUI, head of news at the Standard Group.
Yes.
Also a broadcaster and political commentator.
And Tanui also got a few greetings.
Salamu.
Yeah, I think, well, on the lighter side, yes, it is greetings.
Yes.
And for the record, it was not by the agencies. It was because of some, I don't know whether they are state agents or political agents, I don't know. But the most painful thing in all this, despite putting on the veneer of confidence, is the fact that your privacy has been taken away and your number has been circulated everywhere. Well, like Ken, I got some money. People were very generous. 1 shilling here, 5 shillings. The highest denomination I got was 50 shillings. And whereas my M-Pesa balance didn't move so much, I was actually waiting for it to, I thought it would gain momentum so that I donate to some charity.
Yes.
And I had already thought of a children's home that really need money. If you have money you want to throw around just to know whether this is my number.
Yes.
And I can aggregate and get 100,000.
Yes.
I'll very happily call you guys and say, let us take this money to a children's home.
Yeah.
It will serve a good purpose. But thank you.
Thank you, Tanui. Mr. NZAU, karibu.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be back. My name is NZAU, MUSAU.
Yes.
I work with the Frederick Norman Foundation,
Yeah.
a German political foundation. And I'm glad to be here on a day when the Kenyan media is restating its place in the democracy. You saw the demos that have been ongoing. I'm surprised, Charles, you're here. Should have been out in the streets.
I should have been in the streets, but we were, by that time, the salamu zilikuwa nyingi, so we had to hold the fort down.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm Charles Otieno, I'm your host. So, gentlemen, I think we'll start today a bit slower. The President, William Ruto, has made an announcement of his remaining part of government, the cabinet positions, not fully constituted. I don't know what was your first reaction, Tanui, when you saw the President walking up the stairs, that lonely walk again to announce the cabinet secretaries.
Will you allow me to be a bit cheeky?
Yes.
And please do not, I hope Kenyans will not misinterpret the analogy I would use. And I've always said, because we know politics is about 3 things. It's about power, influence, and money. It's about what's in that space, what can you do to exercise power. That's politics. The definition of politics that I find very convenient, always from my university days, is that politics is the ability by A to make B do what B would not otherwise have done. Yeah. If I were able to make you do what you not do, that is politics. It's about influence. That I have, you may not like it, but there's something that you have to do for your own sake. That I am the one pressuring, and it's then that you say you have achieved that. And what I wanted to say is, all these politicians are the same. And that's are the same. They have tasked to play in that space of power, influence, and money. And I gave you this picture of if you are at home and you are dining and you want to dine in peace, and the dog is outside packing, for you to enjoy that peace as you eat and not choke on that food, you have to throw that dog some bone. You get me?
I get you.
So you have to silence and
the
invite them to a
dog.
small party.
Yes.
Otherwise, you will not be able to eat
in peace.
So I don't know. I'm not saying there's any dog, but I believe that you have to give them something to silence.
Yes.
Now, the fiesta is on. I wouldn't want to imagine that we'll end up in a situation that, based on Kithongo book, it's our turn to eat.
Yes.
I would hate us to imagine a situation where now the political the congregation of these politicians is now about who will eat more than who.
Yeah.
It would be tragic. So I hope beneath the figure of we are uniting the country, the broad-based, all-inclusive government is not about congregating on the dining table and each trying to satiate their own anger, anger for money, anger for influence, and anger for power.
So I think you really put it very well that if you are eating, you want that piece, you have to throw a bone to someone there to eat. And Ken, when you look at the bone which has been thrown, it's actually a very big bone. What is your reaction to the bone thrown to the other people?
You don't speak with your mouth full. That is my reaction to the bone thrown. So when you're eating, once the bone has been thrown, then you can't speak and chew at the same time. You have to choose what to do. In this case, you have food. What is the choice you have? Chew it silently. That's my reaction. But the lonely walk, I don't think today it was a lonely walk as it has been in the past few weeks. The last 2 times, the president has appeared with Musalia Mudavadi and Rigathi Gachagua, the 3-man cabinet. They've always been together in the last 2 press conferences. So I think the president is not as lonely as he was on the 25th of June and the 27th of June and the subsequent press conferences. So today I think we saw a man who even forgot his notes for the first time. He forgot his notes. The secretive notes that were not so secret, that by today 9 a.m. people are bundling those names tragically accurately to the name and docket. So it was not so secret. It was known. But what I would say about this, Charles, today is the president has solved his 2027 question permanently. He has resolved it. However, he has not answered the Gen Zs.
Wow. So, NZAU, Ken is saying the president has resolved the 2027 question. Have we recycled or cycled the cabinet?
I think Ken is probably jumping the gun. It's way too early. Like Tanui will tell you, a day in politics is really it's a long time, if that is a phrase. But so many things can change. Right now we are in 2024. Is it 3 years away to the next general election, right? And the effect of what has happened today is yet to, the full impact of what has happened today, we are yet to see, the implications of the same. Number one, we are assuming that this is going to solve the issues that Gen Zs have raised, when in fact, it is more or less like we have hijacked a process. These Gen Zs were, they were pitching for, like a reset of our values, our national values, so that we take a completely new direction, not just about sharing power. Sharing power is good. Politics is organized through, access and distribution of power. So it is actually important, but that's not alone. There are other values beyond now the power itself, like, the values that we live as a society. And that is what the Gen Zs have been saying, that we need a reset. We need a reset button so that we totally behave differently, how we do things, how we pick people. Today, again, we have chosen people from from the National Assembly. And the National Assembly, the last time I remember, I think it was 2013 when we were choosing the first cabinet. President Kenyatta chose his cabinet, and he chose some senators, he chose some members of parliament. And I remember us doing calculation in this newsroom, and we were a bit surprised the amount it was going to cost taxpayers to get someone to resign from a National Assembly, especially Senate seat, which is quite big. The amount of money it would cost the taxpayer, because it's still taxpayers' money, to get that guy a replacement for that guy. And yet, there are so many Kenyans out here who are qualified. Charles, you are qualified, I think. I suspect, and most of our seniors here. So, what I'm saying is that it is a bit early to indicate what in my opinion, what Ken is saying, solving the question. He might have just complicated it a bit more. Don't forget that already in AZIMIO now is split. Even ODM itself is already split by the events of today, because some people are expecting cabinet positions, probably they did not get. Some people also want to identify with Gen Z. They are seeing the moment. There's a national moment for them as young people to break away from this past. So I don't know. We will probably feel the full implications in the next few days. For now, I would think we'd rather just, like we say in my community, you just set your eyes. Let's watch first, and then we'll.
But I think you need to ask Ken. What
What I mean
I'm
by
intrigued by this.
political question.
Do you mean he has committed suicide?
No.
Political
That's
suicide.
exactly.
So
That's exactly what NZAU should be saying.
Yes.
Because I'm here, I can speak for myself.
Okay.
The president's calculation is 2032.
Yes.
He wants to get re-elected. The most formidable opponent of the president is in ODM party. That is looking at the politics as it is. The Gen Zs are yet to identify themselves politically to make a formidable force that will run against the government. They're likely to go into that. Now, let me explain why he has resolved his 2027 political question. If the opposition was left united,
Yes.
and they decided to be united, this would have been a formidable force for President William Ruto if he survives the onslaught against him by the young people of this country at this particular moment. So if he survives it to 2027 and the opposition stood strong with the Gen Z and the rest of the country, his popularity has waned significantly in the last 2 months or 1 month and a half. So what was I saying? His 2027 political question is, who is running against me and how strong are they? And that is what he's solved. There is no one strong enough right now. ODM has so many members of parliament. I mean, after UDA, it's ODM as a single independent party unit. So many members of parliament. So how does he solve it? He ensures that the force is with him. How do you tell me in 2027 all these guys who have crossed over, if at all the president survives this onslaught? Because it's a huge force that is still moving. That's why I said he has sorted out his political question for 2027, but he has not sorted the Gen Z and the reason why this began. That these politicians are beneficiary from a process that they didn't begin.
But Ken, why did people who have been given, say, 6 months to live, 4 months to live, 1 year to live because of terminal diseases, selling all they had to go close to Leondo? Was it called Leondo?
Loliondo.
Medicine man.
Yes.
It's because it offered at least one or more, whatever
One more day.
And so what I think we should see in this president is that he's looking at anything available, any straw of grass to hold on to at the moment. But I'm sure behind his mind, he'll be figuring out as he goes, how do I now come and put all this arithmetic together to so that I have 2027 and 2032 in sight. But for now, it's about the most immediate problem to be solved, which is that the political exposure, erosion of confidence in the country, and he's looking at it again. Forgive my analogy today. There's an American president who said there are people you must have inside your tent, so that because they like politically peeing, they should be peeing outside, not inside. So you give us many when you are in, you have. I think it was a Truman. Yes. So you have. So if instead of having, if they are stone throwers or whatever they are doing, or hurling whatever missile, and they are addicted to that, they have them inside, so that you look for another enemy outside. But you do not. If you let them outside, you'll be the recipient of the arsenal. So I think the president is really split between how do I secure my own self and for this fight we've had, but how then do I also win and send a signal to the country that I have changed. Remember the opening speech of the president. It was very telling. He actually was at pains to show it has been consultative. It's again the same thing, same message. I have listened. You see, the president was being tactful. He was answering the question that is tone deaf. It is still in his mind. So he's still trying to show at the country at any available opportunity that I listened and I acted and I'm committed to this process. So for now, when you are firefighting, you do not ask whether this water is dirty or clean, you bring any water to fight to quench the fire. Whether however long it will take, when because you need now to, when you are fighting fires, you need a chemical, say intervention or border or whatever. But for now, it is the next available packet to quench. As to whether it's efficient is a question that I throw to NZAU and yourself or Charles. Is it going to be effective in the long run? But in the short term, you'll be able to. It's going to work a little bit.
So and Tanui, you've really captured it very well. The way he was picking the numbers, I think we need to really get to the bottom of it. You look at the ethnic configuration, and what could Ken, and you are the one who always, you always tell us that this was supposed to go this way. The ethnic configuration, the mountain has still 8.
Is it 8 or 7?
8.
Okay.
How will he satisfy? And in these 8, the other regions have gotten, but the Gen Z, the big question, Tanui is saying that he was listening, but has he listened to the Gen Zs, or is he listening to the political parties?
I think before Ken comes,
Yes.
I think one of the things we are missing, and I think I also reiterated on it earlier on, it is not that Gen Zs were really looking for positions.
Yeah.
And I think also the president seems to understand that. It's not really, the cabinet is one aspect of it. You know, they came out and said they do not want this cabinet. This cabinet was not performing or was not sensitive. You remember all these decisions went through cabinet, including the ones on university education funding and those and so on and so forth. They passed through cabinet resolutions. So either the cabinet was not functioning, or the man who chairs the cabinet, the president, was not listening to the cabinet. We do not know because we don't sit in that cabinet. So the Gen Zs were not asking to be on the table. They want a complete overhaul of our system. It's a rather ambitious demand that they are making, because that has its own implications. We wouldn't know what happens next if, for example, if you you completely bring new people, completely new parliament and so on and so forth. Then that is a process also, and none of us has thought very keenly about the practical next steps about such a bold. But that's what they wanted. That's what Gen Z's, the president is saying that he had them, and that's what they want.
Let me give you this joke I had. It's just in the US, a gunman shot Trump. It missed the head, caught the ear, but the bullet hit Biden, and Biden is gone. Here, the Gen Z shot at him, their gun at RUTO, but it hit Raila. So now, the question that we need to be asking is, yes, the Gen Zs have not made any, they have not sought any political position. Them, they want us to rewrite our
history,
our values, our
values, governance system. But how will Raila recover from this in this process, so that he'll be seen? First of all, remember, he said, he assured the Gen Zs, I have you and I'm with you. And remember, we sat here and we talked about even the tweets by his own children. Yeah? About and Baba said, when Ken told us that there are some senators who are going to plead with him, please, this is a short-term arrangement with RUTO. We may be alienating ourselves from this bigger political constituency that's coming up, that is vowing that we'll do our massive registration for the next election. So that dilemma is what we need to be looking at. That yes, the Gen Zs have made their demands. But the greatest beneficiary so far seems to be
Raila. Who was not even part of
and
it.
And Raila had said, I've had you.
Okay. Yeah, and I think this is a very interesting aspect of the decision. I'm just trying to think of Raila Odinga, because we've been privy to most of his meetings, and we have reported about most of his meetings. But I'm thinking of a cornered leader and a besieged leader. The cornered leader is William Ruto. The besieged leader is Raila Odinga. When this thing began at the outset, aliambiwa agwambo ka nyumbani. You're not part of it.
Yes.
Ironically, he is the beneficiary of this outcome. My analogy of what has happened is this. Raila got to a point that he needed to start thinking about himself rather than the country. He has been seen to sacrifice so much for Kenya, yet he's never been rewarded. He has been vilified and accused of not being serious when he's running for president. He's never wanted to be president, but he's always wanted to be part of the government. And all the subsequent 4 governments he's been in them. This is just his government, what should have been there in 2007, just coming to life 16 years later, or 17 years later. 2007, 2024. So I'm looking at a leader who sat and thought deeply, and asked himself, what is more important to me as an individual at this particular point? Do I think about country first? Do I think about Raila first?
Yes.
And Raila thought about Raila first this time round. For the first time, Raila has thought about himself and what benefits him, not what benefits the country.
What about the coalition?
But the assumption...
Exactly. The reward. He is my proxy.
Yeah.
If he gets something today, you bet out of 10 he'll call Ken. He's rewarded the people who've been steadfast. And if you want to know I'm right, look at Mbadi's statement in Siaya over the weekend. He stood out and vilified and accused James Orengo and dismissed everyone who was right. He already knew.
Yeah, but the question I wanted to ask is this. Why do we think Raila is his own person now, his own man? Is he in control of the situation or people are controlling
Yes.
him? Because virtually the top cream of ODM has gone to government.
It's the decapitation of
The
ODM
chairman, the
Deputy party leaders
the 2 deputy party leaders
and the chairman.
and the chairman.
and the chairman.
Yes.
They are now
And
in
And the political affairs person, Mpio
Yeah.
Wandai. and
I think the
leader.
headline we saw
Yes.
in the Standard,
Yeah.
was it Raila this, Raila that, or something like
Yes.
that? That captures exactly the situation Raila is in at the moment. And to answer what Tanui is saying, he is not himself. I mean, he's not the one. He's
control.
He's not in control because things are moving very fast. He's receiving a lot of pressure from both directions, from the young people. Don't forget, there is a younger wing of ODM which is very ambitious, and they are looking beyond Baba. They are also now the old guys who really are looking for something right now. You know, they are on their exit, whatever. So, and even Raila himself now, you remember there is also the AU bid, and there is also 2027. So there is a combination of pressures which don't make Raila to be his own man at this point in time. So the decisions, and we have seen it for ourselves, since last week when he went to Kware Place,
Yes.
addressed a rally there, and if you remember, he flip-flopped. And the whole of that week he was taking this decision, he takes another decision. He takes the opposite completely. So he's completely unpredictable at the moment, but it's not really. And we are waiting to see what he's going to say. His first statement after this cabinet, I'm not quite sure whether he has already spoken.
No.
It is really important to hear what he says after the cabinet has been announced. And the place of, because Tanui was asking about the coalition, and Ken is being a politician himself, because he only answered about ODM. What about the coalition?
That's what I said. I was good about the coalition.
Because I've answered the question of the coalition in the last 2 weeks. First alone, secondly after Martha Karua, and the last podcast we had, the coalition took a stand. And remember, we have 18 or 19 cabinet secretaries right now. 19. So there are 2 more. But the coalition already took a stand. When we last spoke, we said, Raila Odinga na Pima, ground in Asemaje. He wants to see, last week we had the exclusive that Raila Odinga had told William Ruto on Friday, hold on, announce your side. Let's see what Kenyans say. Let's see how they react to the nominations. Then we can proceed. And then he has done that today. So the coalition has taken a stand. The tweet that was sent by Martha Karua, if I can just find it, would tell you exactly what the coalition side is thinking. Martha Karua said this straight after that announcement. Martha Karua, let me just find it. She said a very short sentence. She said, let every person stand by the courage of their convictions. That is what Martha Karua tweeted straight after the cabinet nomination. It tells you their conviction is don't join William Ruto's side. Kalonzo Musyoka has been very explicit in this. Eugene Wamalwa has been very explicit in this. Kalonzo Musyoka has been very explicit in this. And Martha Karua, the 3 have been very explicit. It's only ODM that flip-flopped. They were not sure where to stand. Do we take, do we not take? Then wakapima weather kidogo, wakaona, Kenyans ultimately, they'll accept these things, you know? Yes, and that's what they hope. So the question now question is, will it work to their advantage or not?
Yes.
Because the clouds are still gathering. It's yet to rain. The clouds are, but so will it work for them? Are they getting the umbrella to shelter or not? I think that's the most important question going forward now.
So, Tanui, what does this appointment mean for Raila?
You know, I'm one person who believes in that we got the meaning of the Moi's name wrong.
Yeah.
And in what you are learning from him, that actually, and as I've said before, probably it actually meant MOI, my own interests.
Yes.
And that is the politics of the professor.
Yeah.
So what we are trying to overthink the issues that these politicians are dealing with. But one thing that we are pushing under the carpet is that it is in the end about their interests. Interest is what matters. If you look at all the people that Raila appointed, I think except Oparanya, the rest have said they have no business being in this government.
Yes.
Mbadi was very clear. If this is the kind of skunk cabinet that Ruto wants, let him have it. It will fail.
Yeah.
But he's now coming to help Ruto fix the economic problem. The economic agenda, Treasury is now basically under Raila's docket in government.
The executive ministry.
Yes. So what Ruto would be saying is from now henceforth, who is the Treasury? You talked about Ndungu, he has paved way. The national debt, the issue of taxation, the issue of all the meeting the targets. It's now solely on Mbadi. He had said, I never want to work in this government. Joho actually questioned a bit of Ruto's judgment, saying, trying to compare himself, and he said he does not want anything to do with Ruto government. If Ruto thinks he can give him a wheelbarrow to push, he pushed enough wheelbarrows in the streets of Mombasa when he was growing up.
I think let's play that when you come back to finish.
Yeah.
Mimi Hassan Joho
Yeah,
nikitaka
listen to Joho.
kuongea.
Joho
Mimi
and,
I
Mbadi.
don't even dream of engaging with them. Ati huyu akitaka aje ongee sio na mimi niongee na Ruto nini? Mimi nikamtafute atanipa nini? Wilbaro. Nilipeleka wilbaro mimi la kimtaani la kucheza nalo zamani.
And Mbadi?
President Ruto, his skunk. Let us not interfere with it. We give it to him. He has asked for it. Let us give him his cabinet. We know he's going to run the government from State House. These are not people who can run a government. Apart from a few individuals who are not even more than 8, the rest are incompetent, unqualified, have integrity issues, are people who cannot deliver this country from where it is to the next level that we want the country to move in. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I will oppose most of the names.
And I think on that note, we should have had Raila saying he has no, the Mandamano was not about joining government. He himself said.
Yes.
So what has happened now is the dominance of personal interests. And when you look at it, the way it will play out is if Kenyans will buy the idea that if they help fix the Ruto's government issues, who will take credit? Will it be Ruto? Will Kenyans understand that it was the entry of Raila? Remember, there is one silent person in all this process called Kashagwa.
Yes.
He had said, hii mtu akiingia ndio sasa uchawi inaingia. Many things. He said, in fact, he belongs to BO Box, private bank,
Bondo.
And he said, everything has fallen apart in any government that Raila has gone into. And therefore, what are the like-minded people saying? You went for a fight. You declare that we have no time, we want Raila to retire. Today, you are handing him over instruments of assistance. You are calling him over. You are not forming government because the new cabinet because you want him to have a hand in it. Yeah. So the issue is then that those interests, how far will it take them?
Raila Odinga remains every president's band-aid. Whenever there's a problem,
what do you mean band-aid?
They call him in to sort it out.
Yes.
Yes, that's what I mean. He remains every government's band-aid. From the late Moi to Kibaki, it was more visible in Uhuru's government and now in President Ruto's government. President Ruto never needed Raila Odinga to sort out his problem. But he's coming in, and Ruto is hoping that this is stopped by Raila Odinga. He is my band-aid. For me to survive the MO1, For me to survive, I need Raila Odinga on my side. And the crucial thing they are forgetting, or this government is forgetting, is what NZAU said. Have they addressed the issues of the Gen Z, what these guys wanted? The people who caused this crisis, for the first time, we saw a government in crisis, cornered, pushed to the wall. Now, Ruto is hoping that he's not going to go through the wall, bringing Raila into his team, or bringing Raila's people. In other words, let's silence this section of discordance. Let's silence this section of noisemakers, in quotes, right? And the biggest noisemakers in this country have been the opposition for the last few years, or for the last few governments. So if you silence the opposition, then you hope that that dog that is being thrown something will begin to eat, and they'll be silent, and you can eat in peace. But it's not going to happen because, simply because he has not addressed the elephant in the room, governance. And that is what these people want. So to the Gen Z, if you look at the conversation online again, is anguka now what? Anguka now what? Everyone who's coming, sasa anguka now. So it's not only Ruto falling now.
Yes.
It's not only Ruto you're telling to go home, but now you're finding a platform to tell everyone else to go. That is the conversation online right now.
So NZAU, and Ken is saying anguka now what? Raila has been handed this monkey of carrying the policy, the bottom up. Does Ruto now shift politically or economically from his bottom up policy? And
He hasn't, but the long and short of what the two have told you, Charles, is that right now, Raila is now the one carrying the skunk. You remember the skunk? The skunk Bandi was talking about. So because Treasury, the biggest issue we are facing, and which is a trigger for all this, you recall, it was the high cost of living, which was brought to the table by the finance bill, which was tabled by the Treasury CS, the former professor, the Professor Njuguna, who has now been replaced by an ODM chairman, the national chairman of ODM, just imagine. In fact, one thing we are not even talking about here is a confusion that has been brought to the political scene. ODM is a senior member of the opposition coalition, which is supposed to checkmate the government, the ruling party, which is Kenya Kwanza Alliance, the alliance. So now the main political party, the main opposition party, the chairman of that party has been swallowed, is now in government. You know, that is a serious affront to the principle of democracy, because the most ideal situation would be a political party. And if you remember very well, the president, when he was being sworn in, he spoke about decency and just hygiene in politics, so that an opposition member plays their role in opposition, and the member who is for the national, who is in government, plays their role in government, and you work together. You are still
He was
part
the
of.
first to violate that NZAU.
Of course, he was.
He was the first to violate it.
And today, now, he has now confirmed that he has totally no respect at all for that principle. Because now, and coming back to your question, now where we are right now is, and Tanui, I think, also spoke to it, where we are going, and we'll see the full implication of this in the next few weeks, or in the next few days, or even hours. I'm not quite sure. But ODM will take, the flak for almost everything. So, what Ken has said now, it is now no longer about kuanguka na moja. It's about anguka nao wote. And it's really sad, because Raila is basically putting himself in a situation whereby he becomes a victim where he was nowhere. I mean, he was like that bullet we were talking about. He should not have been anywhere close to the bullet was not aimed at him.
he walked straight
but
to
he
the
is
bullet
walking
path.
himself to where the bullet is headed, and now becoming a victim where he was not even supposed to be. So it's not really a good place to be for Raila Odinga. But again, like we spoke, he's a bit confused by many things happening around, and time is also of essence for him. So maybe he's making the mistakes, or maybe it's not a mistake. We are not quite sure how this will roll.
So the question maybe to Tanui is, Rigiji has been silent. It's shockingly silent. What is he cooking with this appointment? Or is he happy he got his 8? Mutahi Kaiga wanted 8 for the mountain, and he has his 8. But with Raila entry, and he's always been a vicious man against Raila. What will he? How will that cabinet be? I would not the first meeting in cabinet where Raila guys are there.
Yeah, you should have asked first of all how will the first meeting between the three RUTO allies
Yes.
do with budget and treasury?
Yes.
Ishunga on the majority leader and Didi Nyoro
Yes.
as the budget docket, and the guy from
Molo.
Molo,
because they love to sit with Mbadi and discuss the way forward. But before we come to that, to Gachagua, I think still on Raila, there are two things we need to be very careful about. One is we have to give him credit that he's managed to squeeze in this negotiation the strongest docket from RUTO. One of the biggest headaches between Raila and Kibaki during the Nusumkata negotiation was that there are certain ministries that Kibaki said these are president, they must be with the president's side, which was Treasury.
Yeah.
There was a Minister of
Security,
Foreign Affairs,
Defense.
Foreign Affairs because of the messaging with the world, Defense, and I think the energy sector.
Yeah.
The energy sector being the biggest driver of revenues in government. But the two are actually with Raila. That either is a measure of desperation by the president or an endorsement of the fact that he could do anything to get Raila. But on the other aspect that we need to look at, the second level, the other negotiation was structured and anchored by law, because it was two sides coming. Here we have one that is just based on oral assurance by the president. There is nothing anchored in law. So Raila must have really banked on the trust of RUTO. So I don't know what has happened between them, that there is now a trust that, yes, my people will not be humiliated. They will play the role that they did. Because Raila has tested the pain of betrayal, coming into with the Af government, saying we are sharing with Kibaki, and he tried even that time to fire RUTO and Hungarian, he couldn't. He couldn't. He started complaining about the quality of the carpet. I mean, so he knows very well what he's walking into. What I'm still figuring out is what makes him trust RUTO at this stage in time. RUTO could be frustrated, but he's ever the sly and cunning politician. If he feels that the waters are too rough and his boat may capsize, he may need this engineer from Nairobi University, German, to help squeeze one bolt here and there and cross. But once there is assurance that he'll reach the shower, will he still hold on to Raila people? So it is something that hypothetically, but I'll come to Gachagua first. I think.
Yes, what I wanted to say is the skunk. I think Mbadi's reference to the skunk was based on the personalities, because he said, I can only vouch for about 8 out of the 22, right? So the skunk was based on the people who are brought in the cabinet by RUTO. So his fears at that time, if we don't even need to take him out of context, we only need to read through what he said. He said, if these are the cabinet secretaries that RUTO want, let's give him this camp. But I will be opposing most of these names. Probably he will leave about 8. So,
but Ken, there's another element to that which you are not mentioning.
Yes.
He implied that the president wanted those ineffective cabinet ministers because he wanted to control
from
the cabinet.
From
So now that he's in the cabinet, is he
going
to
one of them?
Is he going to work
or is he going from State House?
Independently, yeah.
Oh, okay, that's a very interesting perspective. But let's give it to them.
There's even another one. Was the president hesitant about having Raila out there, and that the CSS that they are nominated to not go through the clearance stage in Parliament, and he needed their numbers, because remember people like Junet saying, "Let 10 hours we will show them." So was he trying to make it easy for his nominees to go through by blabbing all of them but quiet?
You've completely thrown me off balance. Yes, but give it to them. Give it to them. When the cabinet was dissolved, one of the people that I know very well tweeted and said, the most incompetent group ever assembled, right? And that sentiment is shared across. There are a lot of people who should have not seen light in that cabinet, but they saw light in that cabinet. So give it to Ruto this time round. Regardless of the politics played around, there are very qualified people who are able to handle dockets there. But for example, I think it was his childhood dream to be a cabinet secretary treasury. He told me at Bomas, he kitu imeenda, and he would be CS treasury. So he's fulfilled his dream. So give it to them.
But there is something that I would not have wanted to interrupt you.
Yes.
But there is something about Mbadi and the suitability for treasury. Well, he's a very good accountant, but is he an economist? And who do we need at this stage in treasury?
To run, yes.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of decisions. It's not about the money.
It's not about accounting.
Unless
Or even
one thing
these
we
are
are sure,
political heads.
one thing we are sure NZAU is that
Yes.
your story will not happen now. That Uhuru could not pick out some figures, and so there was a
Zero.
typographical error. So this guy will be able to see that they are not typographical errors.
Yeah, and it's
But
all-
the economy.
Yes.
The economy.
Is he able?
Is he equipped?
is
Yes.
equipped, and it's also not about dreams.
Yeah.
People have a lot of dreams.
Even you have
Even
a dream.
myself and
Yes.
all of us here had dreams.
But how is it? But how does it become Buddy's problem that he achieved this before yours? How does it become? Well, my point was this: give it to Ruto. He has tried, regardless of the politics, he has tried to look at professionals, but still there are issues with the cabinet nominees, right?
Yeah.
But that one will be sorted at the point where now they have to go through Parliament, right? So my take in this is, the president is trying too hard to survive. And what Tanui said, he might survive. But at the end of the day, I'll go back to the question. Has he given enough blood that these people will now be silenced and say, let's see what this other group can do for you?
Yeah, from there, let's go back to Gachagua. And again, don't blame Mursik, please. I have not taken Mursik today, but I wanted to I'm just...
We learn every day here.
I just wanted to give you another analogy.
Yes.
That basically, if this was a marital relationship where there are already two spouses who didn't like each other, and now you bring a third one in the mix. So Mudavadi and Gachagua had their own issues. Now the Israel are there. So can you imagine how chaotic that household could be? And the biggest is fight that I know in all these relations called nil by mouth. So
Yes.
Gachagua would not want to express his grievances openly, but you consistent with what he has been saying,
Yes.
and even how he viewed Mudavadi. Remember, they are the ones who his political consistency was the one driving the narrative that even the party leader of KIPKOECH should not have been should have been from their side. Even the Secretary General. They were looking at what they gave, and therefore this even complicates the situation. If Mudavadi, Wetangula, Malala had not invested as much to deserve what they got, what is it that Raila has invested in this government? So it's going to be another delicate mathematics. But over and above this, ladies and gentlemen who are listening, we need to ask ourselves, go back to the basic. Was the problem the cabinet, or was the problem Ruto? Was he listening to them? And you had hinted at that. Was he listening to them? Or it's a one-man show? You go there, and we talked about that analogy that somebody had raised, that probably Ruto is the kind of control freak that when you go to advise him, he advises on you on how you should advise him. So has he changed his style? Is he more accommodative? And we said here that Kenyans are watching to see if the president has crossed the line between election victory and the joy of winning and crushing his opponents, and getting onto the level of statesmanship and embracing the country as one, uniting, whether they voted for you or not. And that is the problem that he and Gachagua carried for a long time. That it was about winner takes it all.
They celebrated
And that's why
for
they
it.
brought the issue of shareholding. How's the president finally, despite and reluctantly, but at a lot of pressure, come to that conclusion that on our own we can't cross this crocodile infested river? We need other people inside, because today he talked about it. But the question then is, what is he going to do himself as the leader to show, not just nominating these people, but showing the country that he has changed his mind and he has realized he's made a big mistake. And you need also to dismantle the informal government. We talked about the people that are around him, that had even scared the deputy president stiff. And he said, I'm not, I'm being subordinated by blockers and junior people who have no formal position in government. And he mentioned Farouk Kibet as the president termed them. And therefore, will he, as he changed the rule of the book that has been guiding him? That is what Kenyans are seeing. And I'm sure Raila is a cunning, is also a very sly politician. He must be trying, he must be seeing, he must have told him, yes, we'll come on board, but we'll watch each of your steps. If at any point you want us to be just people who take you to the laundry and cleanse you and then take the dirt, we will jump. And be sure, Raila will, if this thing does not go his way, you will see what he may do.
But Tanui, that is what I wanted to ask you. Who will they cry to this time round? Who will sit and listen to this team? Let me say, for example, today, in the cabinet, because we talked about it last week, are these people who are just going to help Ruto cleanse his government, or they are going there also to help him work? Now, if they're coming in to help him survive and cleanse his government that has been tainted in mud and all sorts of colors, then it's not going to work. But let's just flip the coin and say it doesn't work. So they are here to cleanse Ruto to survive.
Yes.
But it doesn't work. The question is, who will Mbadi akinyimwa full carpet today? Akinyimwa toilet, a clean one, akinyimwa gazla.
Yes.
Who will he cry to? Who will listen to them this time round?
I think that's
That's-
Morgan Helper.
no, that's a-
He's been the youngest in the field. Political,
No,
he's
it's a-
fresh from the political
yeah.
field.
It's really a good question, and something to really think about, because what we have just seen and we have said, AZIMIO, there is one side which has been left in opposition, and they are grumbling. You can be sure. Kalonzo side, Martha, they are all complaining about that. Then number two, you have
Kioni
Gen
side.
Zs. Yeah, Kioni side, Kina Peter Munya and so on. Then you also have the Gen Zs themselves, who are the driver and the cause for this. You know, they are the ones who triggered this, windfall, for, if you can call it that, for ODM. So there is also that side. And then there is an element Tanui has just alluded about, the fact that when you come to government at this point in time, you are a bit late. You know, the kitchen cabinet, the people you spoke about, the ones who are the deputy president was complaining about, they are still in charge. And remember, those guys do not have cabinet positions. They do not have anything to resign from. You know, like the way cabinet was dissolved. If you tell Farouk right now to resign, what will he be resigning from? He doesn't have a position in government, and those guys are running the show. So there is a big risk for that, for the newcomers in government, to be in government and not be able to function optimally or the way they thought they could be able. Don't forget, and this is something which has missed, has not been in the radar of many people, that for every cabinet secretary, the main ones, I mean the top, the prime ones, the president has advisors in State House, as his own cabinet, again, in State House, which rather some people say is wastage of money, because it's a double. You already have a minister, but you have an advisor in State House. So we have Ndi, who is running the show.
The Raburauza.
On the economic side, he's an economist. What Anu was saying, Bandi is not an economist. He's running the show from State House. He's closer to the president.
Yeah.
Bandi is a stranger in government. He's a new stranger in Jerusalem.
Yeah.
So they will, to answer your question, they will have no one to run to. ODM, if things turn out go wrong, I don't think it will be
Are you saying
be a
this is
soft
the
landing
story
for them.
of mass suicide? That let us partake of this cup of poison.
Yeah.
We
see whether we
survive.
survive.
Cyanide.
Actually, Tanui, I think he's very right. And straight up, there's going to, in 3 months,
Drama.
there's going to be a massive fallout. Because Mbadi will be a CS who will realize that he can't reach the president directly. He has to go through Farouk. Joho will be a CS. I'm not ready. I'm saying the truth. This one, whether we like it or not, this is to help them settle the noise. But the reality is going to hit. That
Them.
Mbadi will be reading statements that are written from State House by Ndi.
Yes.
Then it will hit him. It's going to happen whether they like it or they're outsiders
But that-
in government to help Ruto
But
work.
from your previous statement that he told you, it is his dream to be
A childhood dream
Yes.
to be
to be
CS.
able to put in his CV,
CV.
while applying for a World Bank job.
Was a
that,
cabinet secretary.
Yeah,
For treasury.
And we managed to turn this
Exactly,
revenue
but is that what they're looking at when they took up this position? Are they not looking for power? They're not looking for that influence.
Power
they're not looking
influence.
for that money. They're looking for it. But sooner or later, they're going to realize after swearing in, they'll not be getting the best offices in the corner of a treasury
Building, yeah.
They will get the worst one. And then who do you complain to? Because Ruto, remember the statement Ruto made after election. Niacheni tu huyu mzee, this time around I'm going to corner him. Probably he's cornering him.
He said,
Probably
he
he'll
said
have-
I know him.
Yes, probably he'll have
He
no
said
other
they know
way
each other.
out. This time round, Raila will have no way, because who are you going to cry? You think Raila Odinga will stand at Uhuru Park this time round and call Gen Zs and say, come, I'm being assaulted sort of in the government that I helped stable? It's impossible. And it's going to, reality is going to hit home and hit hard. That they'll
So,
have
A
flags.
story is told, Ken,
Yeah.
and it perfectly fits what you're saying. That one time, an assembly of hoofs met, and they talked and they approached the dogs. Said, you know, we are one family.
Yeah.
The hoofs and the dogs. But the only difference is the dogs are brought up by men, and they only listen to instructions by men and take care of their properties. So they said, you know, you are taking very good care of the animals, and it is our common food. If you join us and stop protecting the men and their wealth, we will have a feast. So in this meeting, so they said the next meeting let's have in our place. So they went, the dogs and the wolves met, and then they were ravaged. They became the food for the wolves because that they were told, you are the ones, you are also our meal. So I hope somebody here has not been invited to be turned into meat politically by this arrangement.
No, it's what you said.
Yeah.
And we'll be back here and we'll invite NZAU.
No,
In 3 months,
Yes.
this is not President William Ruto's best interest. I know they'll play that soundbite.
Yeah.
This is not in his best interest, but he had to survive. It's survival mode because what occasioned this, President Ruto has not addressed it. He has not addressed what occasioned these problems. It's a band-aid that every government has used to settle, to function, to allow them to eat.
But
And
the
the
silver-
band-aid is Raila Odinga. And Raila Odinga once more has come in as a band-aid for William Ruto.
Yeah,
eat.
but the silver
Yes.
lining in this is what Tanui has said, that the philosophy of shareholding has been crushed,
Yeah.
which is a good thing actually for the country. That philosophy of this is a shareholding, what you bring is what
What you
determines
get.
what you get.
Yeah.
It's really it has been it's a positive thing that we can say is the silver lining.
So I wanted, gentlemen, you've talked about the casualties. Let's talk about the casualties before. There are many casualties. There are people who we expected. There are comebacks as well. Our good friend Murkomen was out, then he's in.
Before you go to casualty, can I just add something
Yes.
in a minute?
Yeah.
I think for the first time, Raila Odinga has said, Liwe Liwalo, it's my own interest, I mentioned it earlier, and gone ahead to reward his people, right? He doesn't feel what he was feeling for this country anymore. And by the way, if you look at the configuration of that cabinet, some of the most the biggest beneficiaries of what he's done are communities. If you break it down by numbers, you'll find that Raila Odinga as a supremo, and then the 2 cabinet secretaries that have been given, and don't forget that the PS, whether it's Raila's choice or not, interior, is from the same community. So at the end of the day, Raila, whose community has taken a beating every time there's a government, selfish, their self-interest, they just don't want to fight so hard, but yet they become a beneficiaries. And they never benefit. They always have to do a handshake to benefit his side of the divide. Finally, Raila has managed to get that without breaking a sweat, thanks to the agency. So that also must be mentioned, that for the first time, Raila has gotten what he wants without necessarily coming out as Raila Odinga and speaking at the top of his voice to get something for his own side of the community. That we also have to admit, for the last successive governments, has taken a beating for being outside the government. So I'm speaking Mbadi's language. Who said that it's only Luos who have to be in the opposition? Now they've answered that question today, that someone else can take the opposition. Martha Karua, Eugene Wamalwa, Jeremiah Kioni, Kalonzo Musyoka can now run away with the Gen Zs and form an opposition, because to Raila, I'm done with this.
Wow. NZAU, there's a statement you said allude. Tanui does not
Does
allude.
not
I've
like it.
remembered.
Well, now I remember.
He states.
You know, such that term is even used by ministers who should be stating statements and they say, I had alluded
to it.
And that was an official statement.
So Tanui says you state NZAU.
Now I know.
Yeah?
Now I know.
So let's go to the casualties, Ken, or NZAU. There are many casualties there, or Tanui. You've seen casualties. There are guys we didn't expect to make it to the cabinet. There are newcomers we don't even know, like the Stella Soy. I don't know her CV. Has someone seen it? The Barasa is there. There are newcomers who we didn't know. And of course, our AG has made a comeback as a Minister of Public.
to sit on Korea's seat. I
To
don't
sit
know how
on-
Korea feels.
Yes.
Well, there are many surprises. First of all, the guys who had left, Murkomen, you remember?
Yes.
People had there was a lot of bile among the Gen Zs, especially after he spoke about his watch and so on and so forth. But Murkomen, as many of you know, is really a quality guy. It's just that he did not appreciate the moments and so on and so forth. But the guy is now back. I'm sure he has learned a lot of lessons. The biggest casualty, we have Moses Kuria, who has now. Moses is, sometimes you say it's much better to have him on your side
Yeah.
than outside. And he's now outside and pending anything else. So it's a risk the president is taking. The mountain is very volatile, if you remember, with the events which were happening before the Gen Z revolution came. Rigiji, the deputy president, complaining, Moses answering him back, the central feeling that they are getting a raw deal, and so on and so forth. So to have Moses outside is a big risk. It's much more of a risk than an opportunity for the president to get someone else from that side. But then we also have other guys who have made a comeback. Alfred Mutua, who now, I think he should be the only now cabinet secretary from that side of the region where he comes from. So representing the side which the opposition leader Kalonzo has not
Made decision.
decision. So
Yes.
there were two cabinet slots for that side in the previous cabinet. So one is gone, probably in a different direction, but maybe it will come back. So Mutua is a surprise, and I think it's such a relief for him, because this is a man who sacrificed, basically refused to join the dominant party of that area, which was Wiper, and went on his own against the grain and got into the cabinet, and he has been saved. So if he was out of the cabinet now, it would be a totally different story. So now there's Mutua. So there are a number of people who have come as a surprise, comebacks. JB Muturi again, but also there's something else we haven't discussed, Charles, that the back and forth that has been displayed by the president in making these names is also something speaking to something else. Either the president is not firm or is not doing his homework well. You remember he had nominated Rebecca Miano for the AG, but today Rebecca Miano has been named in a different
Tourism.
ministry.
Yeah.
You'll also recall Aden Bare Duale for defense, swapped with Soipan Tuya, and now also JB Muturi coming back. So it speaks to something about the president and the manner. Either he's too consultative. I mean, he said he's forming a broad-based government and he's consulting widely, but it also means he might not be fully in charge of this list, in my opinion, from what we are saying. All of us would have assumed by the time he picked Rebecca Miano, who is an advocate, who is a lawyer, we would assume that he had done enough homework. And he announced to the country that Rebecca is the nominee for AG. But he has changed. And today he has changed again a number of things. So that is also something worth considering. And
But I think, NZAU, one of the things, give it to the president, one of the things that I've realized in this process is that he's very loyal to his friends. is very, very loyal to the people that he's come along with. So he finds it very hard. For example, when I do not know, Murkomen has been given another role, the youth, and I don't know whether you realize there's something creative economy. I don't know whether creative economy is about artists.
The young people.
He's dealing with the Gen Zs.
Yes,
He has
dealing
been
with
thrown to the Gen Zs.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. That yes, you want to help. You see, there are 3 people who forfeited the elective seats who had won elections, and Ruto approached them now that we've won. Cross over, take these big CSS seats, and then we declare by-elections in place. Alice Waume, Duale, and Murkomen. So I think, I wouldn't want to say humanitarian grounds, but something of, I'm sure these guys would ask, so now I would have served 5 years in Senate. You asked me to throw that in the wind. I came here, I've served 2 years, then I've been declared incompetent and I go. So I think that's one of the criteria. The other thing about the people that he has left out, I am sure in his mind he's trying to see in the structures of government, whether it's ambassadorial jobs, whether it's the directorship in boards, parastatals, how will accommodate them. But I can assure you.
Actually, I understand there's a list that will be released today or tomorrow.
Yes, that is Ruto's nature. He will try and, this is a forced arrangement. It would not have been his wish at all.
Yeah.
So he'll find a way of redistributing these people. And I think that is the biggest headache, because the people that the opposition are bringing to government, they are coming with expectation that when I go there, say I'll go, say if you are my friend
Opio and I,
I'm CS Petroleum Energy. So I'm looking at KenGen, I'm looking at Kenya Pipeline, KenGen, Geothermal Authority, I'm looking at Ketraco, Kenya Power, and I have this delusion that when I go there, I'll fix a few of my guys. He may find that there's the same struggle Ruto has, that how do I keep these people who have? So it's a lot of mathematics, but I am sure that there are people that he will have to think about how to bring them on, how to deal with, including that Korea, including Professor Ndungu himself, who was at the Treasury, very loyal.
But we understand that he had also wanted to resign at some point.
Yeah, but then, such a person, you give the honor of
to decide.
But now, these are confirmation of incompetence. If you're saying, I've removed them, I just wanted to look at that list. There is a man from my place, Chelugui.
Yeah,
And
where
I
is
can
he
assure
now?
you, if we are going to talk about the politics of the Kalenjin, they'll say, okay, we've been outmaneuvered, so there's no token in cabinet. It was only Chelugui that was keeping us in cabinet.
Yes.
Some semblance of presence. I'm saying so that tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
Owalo.
Eliud.
Owalo is through the media rooms like,
Oh my
Kolasa.
goodness. Malo is gone.
In his work, he wakes up today, there's no journalist available for him to insult
Yeah.
or show his arrogance and pride that, yes, I am
How could we
ICT.
have forgotten Owalo?
Owalo.
Oh my
In
goodness.
fact, I saw somebody asking, so will you continue distributing beans and maize
In
Nyanza
Nyanza.
and holding meetings about promoting Gormaya? There is one guy, the former lands minister, is called Sagari.
Zachary
Before
Mwangi.
Yeah, I'm told that one is the only the safe is in a very safe place because nobody knows he was there. Nobody knows he was dropped, and so I also read somewhere that he could be the guy sitting next to you in a matatu.
And you don't know.
And you didn't know it.
Then there is
Linturi.
Jumwa and the
Jumwa,
waste,
yes,
the
Aisha.
politics of the waste. As the dance finally come to a certain
Jumwa.
Remember, she also compromised, not going for governor.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not to mention that she was appointed while facing a murder case. There is Linturi, but Linturi and Mashoku are, I think, on their own class because it seems that they had a say in who was to take their position. Linturi picked his personal assistant, and Mashoku is running mate in Kisi for governor seat. So, but
No,
generally,
you're forgetting a Babu Namwamba.
No, I was coming to him because if things were, if the boat was not rocked, he would be in Paris now, displaying his bling bling and his youthful and chickish nature about our at Leeds. And remember, he went at a point when he was being asked, because people, I don't know, for a reason, people don't trust Ababu. So they had asked about the list of who is it, because they think it takes celebs and friends and, so, but he would be in Paris as we speak, enjoying, buying perfumes and pleasing his friends. But now it came to a certain stop. But I can assure you, knowing him, he'll find a way of coming back.
Okay, but not to the cabinet.
Not to the, there's no, not to the cabinet.
Not to the cabinet.
I suspect, I'm not sure, but I suspect because the way the mathematics was done in terms of the distribution is that 7 were to come from the opposition side. And so Raila has given 4. Yeah. And we were in a meeting where it was clear that he wanted 5, but he was forced to sit and he's come to 4. So it means the 2 slots, the Attorney General and the slot of the East African Community docket, may actually be Kalonzo's if he agrees to close. He agrees, and it will not be out of this. It's not beyond any imagination that if on behalf of DAP, the fertilizer party, Kanye is associated DAP with fertilizer. That is my former mate at the university, Eugene Wamalwa. If he would accept, he could be the Attorney General. I don't know, but I'm just saying.
There's a criteria you also forgot when you mentioned about the people he had to retain. Kwambuvi na Mbivu.
Kwambichi na Mbivu.
Mbivu na Mbichi.
So aside from that,
please don't cross the red line.
I see. For example, someone like Dr. Alfred Mutua had to come back, not for any particular reason that he's the best worker, but because there are people who sacrificed their presidential ambition to
Which
be with
presidential
the president.
ambition?
He was running through Chap Chap. He was running for president through and launched a very colorful campaign at KICC. Apart from that,
NZAU knows the cumbersome people very well.
Yeah, but he couldn't because of that. Look at all of them. Moses Wetangula became the speaker. Kingi, who was initially in AZIMIO, became the speaker of the Senate. Right? Musalia Mudavadi, with the Ford Kenya, is now the prime cabinet secretary.
ANC.
ANC. Prime cabinet. Yes, Wetangula was Ford Kenya. Yes, and all of them are in government. Everyone who went to work with Kenya Kwanza are in government. So that is also a criteria that I think he had to use when choosing out of the ones that have kicked out. Who should I bring and for what good reason? So Alfred Mutua, I think, fell in that category of all these presidential candidates who came together to support his bid, UDA, Kenya Kwanza, and they sacrificed, and he had to find somewhere for Alfred Mutua.
I think what NZAU had said earlier, if Kalonzo would have played ball, then Alfred Mutua
would be out.
It doesn't matter whether he was a presidential candidate or not.
But it's not too late with what is happening with the president. He has been changing these names every day.
He might just wake
so
up
I don't know
and send an amendment.
I don't know.
But in that moment of delay when he kept saying, hold your horses.
Hold your horses.
I wanted to see whether there was some earpiece where he's giving fresh instructions. Please, on that list, give me a fresh one. Remove so and so.
But at some point, I saw him sort of typing, whether I was searching for that document or not, but it looked like he was typing something.
Well, it could be that he wanted to search the document because it said it was buried secretly, and he could not find the exact, maybe saved in a different name. So in his iPad, he couldn't get it. I don't know.
But the list looked the same. I think if you check at the statement that he read, he probably saw that statement and realized these are the same names because it starts with the same names he had read before. So probably he was a little bit confused. And what was given to him was still the same statement. But
so, gentlemen, I want us to conclude because of time, I think, and the ethnic configuration. TANUI, you said that in only tongue in cheek Tugen hakuna minister.
Hakuna Tugen hata moja sasa.
Hata Suba hakuna.
Lakini Wasabautu watasema pia tuko na Pokot. But Tugen had produced a president for 24 years, so they are used to being in cabinet. So but that's on a lighter note. But there are communities also that people are asking, like the land where the president comes. So the president has had to pay some price because now
they have the presidency.
Yeah, you have so they have the presidency and the head of public service. So I think he will be dealing with those issues. But I think you can't blame him. You can't have your cake and eat it. That's where the president, he's juggling so many balls. And that's why I actually agree with Nzau. Even if you're in that list, you are not sure whether it will reach parliament. Maybe when it goes to parliament, there will be 2 names that have dropped.
And someone else come in.
Somebody else has come in.
Yeah.
So those guys, if they were not praying, they should be praying and praying very hard. That the president does not meet other people who will tell him, yani we have given too much to Raila. Ni hivi kweli tumekubali.
Hey, surely, treasury.
Yani kiti
Bottom up.
Yeah? You know, like now, Paranya is taking the position that Chelugui was. So I'm sure the people around the president, people sympathetic to Chelugui will say, okay, so this was the only minister that you had brought from
Previous
Uhuru's government. You mean you could not take him across that bridge for 3 years? So now you have abandoned him to bring this guy from Kakamega, who had other cases. You know, remember, Paranya actually even had issues to do with the EACC. I think.
Yeah, he has cases with
yes,
ACC, yeah.
Yeah. So well, time is, like you said, a week in police, a very long time.
Now, I want to ask you a question because you've been asking all the questions.
Yes.
James Orengo tweeted like 15 minutes ago.
Yes.
So he said, principle is indivisible. It's either wholly kept or wholly sacrificed. I don't know what he means.
Raila has sacrificed all the principles of what he stood for, because they believed in the generation of the youth. He believed in democracy. He believed in winner takes all. Yet now he's gone back on all that.
Mm-hmm. That's your interpretation.
Yeah.
Nzau, your interpretation of...
I think you will have to read that again. You
Okay.
know, Orengo is a very philosophical guy. You just need to get it right. So I'm not quite sure I got it.
Okay, I'll read it again. Principle is indivisible. It's either
You take
wholly kept or wholly sacrificed.
I think what he's saying is,
Yeah.
if Raila says he's a principled politician,
Yeah.
you either are principled or not.
Yeah.
So you cannot wade into these dirty waters
And then you say
you're
you're
still keeping your principles. That's the way I understand it.
So you are is technically saying you
Yeah.
you have shown us you have no principle.
Yeah, and if you remember, James, over the weekend, he actually restated that he had already given that indication that I mean, you join with these you join with these guys, you are doomed.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way you can join. He was very clear. That's why he was fighting with John Bundy.
But isn't that one indicator of the direction that ODM politics or Raila politics is taking? That this is a guy who politically had burned his fingers by differing with Raila. Remember?
SDP. 2000.
And him and Nyong'o.
Yeah, 1996.
And they were wiped out
2002.
completely. And they had to crawl back, reconcile with Raila for them to have the positions there.
And they've kept that position
And,
for
they
all
have
these
kept,
years.
and it is what they are now,
Yeah.
what are governors. Now, I think what Orengo is saying is Raila has gone beyond his sell-by-date politically. So it's better we have somebody else.
Okay.
So he's taking courage in the fact that Raila will no longer be harmful to us.
Okay.
I think so.
Okay. And finally, also, what happens, Charles, to the ODM renegades who saw this straight after election, the Professor Tom Ojendas, the Felix Jalango,
Oh, my goodness.
and the rest, who went ahead of time,
Karoli,
Akina,
you're forgetting
Karoli,
Karoli.
Silas Jakakimba, the people who straight up after this
Odoyo
election
Widi.
went to the other side, and now Raila Odinga has joined them. And some have been punished for doing that. So what happens to them, Charles?
You see, those guys, you see the problem of a political grouping, which are based on community interests. The moment you move out alone first, you are seen as a sellout. Now, when Raila comes in, they lose their value even to the person who had induced them to go there. Because RUTO will not want to see those characters there anymore.
The value he was trying to contain by having them around has been taken by one person.
by
It's
one
now
person.
back, yeah.
Okay.
So now they have zero value. In fact, they should be looking for how to re-engage and find a way of survival.
We know he never loses his friends, so probably he'll keep them like Tanui says. He'll find something.
He'll find something. He'll find something. Remember, Karoli is the one who used to host ODM. Physically, but and he was the one. Yeah, and now he was even to get his seat. It was a very difficult thing, but now is where Raila has found him in the
house,
where in the corner he had gone to hide. Now it will be a matter of time before because I'm sure some of the demands will be, now I am the one who decides who engage with the president because
Yes.
I'm the bridge builder.
Yes.
These are not the people to trust.
Yeah.
So politics anyway is like that. It's a merry-go-round. You do not know what tomorrow holds.
Okay.
So NZAU, I think, Ken, you finished?
I have finished. My parting shot is this.
Yeah.
Dr. Margaret Ndungu,
Yes.
ICT. Do we have her profile?
Yeah, yeah.
She has a very solid,
She has very solid background.
very solid
in the
CV.
media.
In the media. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm so hoping, because I just learned that a lot of these government operatives watch this show, because otherwise we'll not be greeted. I'm just hoping that we have a better relationship once she's confirmed
Yeah.
with Margaret Ndungu. I'm hoping. And the president, for example, this spirit of goodwill. And today, the fact that media demonstrated, the journalists were demonstrating about what they feel, and the fact that exclusively, single-handedly, they decided to frustrate the rest of media houses, and now media houses are at a risk of even losing the little livelihood that they have because they're being frustrated every single day, pushed right, left, center, because of this government. I'm so hoping in this spirit of reconciliation and working for Kenyans, for the good of Kenyans, he also examines the fourth estate and realizes how important this institution is. Otherwise, today, the president should have had a press conference with bloggers and on social media. If he didn't think we are important,
Yeah, sure.
he should have done that. So I'm looking forward to Dr. Margaret Ndungu spearheading this and restoring the integrity of the media and taking away the government. What watch in peace, and they should honor payers also.
Perhaps you'll need a ceremony to exercise the costs of a while of fast
Before.
the media
Akuje na
spirit.
clean slate.
But
Yeah.
he still has a principal secretary who is more notorious, having been made by the media, called Kisiangani.
Kisiangani.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeye
Kisiangani
ameenda
is
huko,
notorious.
kusiaga media every day.
Yeah. It's
So watamsiaga ama atabaki.
Oh no, Kisiangani asiagwe pia.
But
For the sake of the media houses.
But
Yes.
something went through my mind today, and it's a pity that the president had actually conceded in his first interview, the last interview at State House with the three media houses, that there was a big problem with this communication program, strategy, or program, or structure,
Or team.
or team.
Yeah.
And he said they also failed me. So it's not. I'm not looking for that job, and I wouldn't want that job. What I'm just thinking of on top of my head is, today he's announcing his cabinet. He's factored in 1 o'clock news bulletins across the country so that he writes on the wave of the MUSAU. And does that show this a retreat from his previous position that he doesn't need us? The other side is, which guys had started talking about, mocking us. Will you give the president a forum to speak to Kenyans to announce his new cabinet? And it's a question that we don't want to sound vengeful, but you do it, but at the back of your mind, the attitude that is the attitude that he has. And in a relationship, your attitude defines how my attitude towards you.
So
the guys were looking at mocking us. Would you give him? And we said, okay, who are the biggest losers if we with all that platform? It would be the one engine, not the president. The president messages are went across. So the only thing that I hope went through the president's mind is that there is now in the international media, CNN, it's about the harassment of media. That one main component of authoritarian governments, dictatorships, is how they relate to the media. Even how he is perceived out there, it is how the extent to which he gives the press the space to operate. That is how you are also defined as a Democrat. How the level of your fidelity to the issue of freedoms. So yesterday, again, tear gassing, bullets, and now the media on the street. So I hope the president will reflect on this, that if I step on the red carpet of Paris today, or of the OAU, how do people see me? How do the people perceive me? It's beyond being his praise song for bloggers. It's beyond his praise song for people who tell him, oh, let's go social media. In fact, right now, he's getting more fire on any seat that he sits on from the social media
than the mainstream,
which is not regulated. And they bring all manner of things. So look at how the social media dissects the issue of his appointments. Some are sexist, some are innuendos. We don't do that. But since the president decided to play in that, to go to that playing ground, he's exposing himself to more problems. He would rather deal with regulated media. So for us, it is a lesson. He's used his statecraft and arsenal of power to fight the media for no reason at all, bringing the media to its knees, perpetuating the mentality that the media did not support him. I don't know whether he did a recruitment process for votes in media house and did vote for him, because we have a mandate to deliver. It doesn't. I am sure there are many media people who voted for him. That is certain, and they are as well disappointed, like the Gen Zs who voted for him because of the freshness and the dinner sentiment that came in. So, all reflection. It's a reflection point for the president beyond what he's doing with the political front. How will he reinvent his image? He repeated on the first about 5 paragraphs the fact that he has listened. So he has dismantled one. He's trying to dismantle. He may not succeed, I don't know. But he's trying to win Kenyans that I listen. One of the accusations was he's not a listening president. Number 2 is that he's not a consultative president. That even people within him say it's very difficult to work with this president. Everything is about what he views. And in Naivasha, he was very clear to his minister, some of you do not send me, do not consult me on WhatsApp. And I know people here who consult. You are telling a consortium of cabinet secretaries, you are telling a consortium of parastatal aides and ministers that they consult the president. What structure? Isn't that an abuse of governance structure? So if I am a minister, my peers and my parastatal chiefs are consulting the president on WhatsApp. So I will find myself, when I want to ask questions, they say, we consulted the president. The president must be a respecter of structure. There must be a way in which there is that statesmanly approach to these issues. So, and that what angers all is his attitude towards democracy. What it is not a comfortable thing, but it is what Kenyans have fought for all over the years. And if in doubt, he needs to look back and see what are the Gen Zs talking about. What is all the forces that have joined the Gen Zs? What are they talking about? The limited democratic space, non-consultation on issues to do with tax, debts. What underpins this constitution from 2010 is something called public consultation. We take it for granted. All his appointments, wherever he has served, or his restructuring of certain organs of his government, are because he did not pay attention to certain things that he takes for granted. The president needs to go back to the constitution, read it. He voted against it. He voted against it.
He did, yes,
But
actually.
he has no choice. He's governing using that constitution. Whether he likes it or not, whether there are aspects of it he swore to defend it, uphold it. So he needs to go back and do a revision time. That whereas I am changing my attitude, my approach in this political side, I also have to go and look at the issues that Kenyans are raising about me. And remember the new police commissioner, and I wish the media would have actually gone to him with the new constitution. Maybe he's been in the police force for too long
Kanja,
to understand
yes.
that
Yeah,
things
he doesn't understand,
He
yeah.
declared that the demos are not allowed. And he has not even stayed in the office in 1 week. A man called Kanja.
Kanja, yeah. He doesn't understand the
and
constitution completely.
He needs to look at it. These people would do a lot of service to themselves to avoid personal embarrassment and not being in tune with what the country is going through by going back to the constitution. And on the issue of advisors, they have advisors. I do not think those people have misadvised them. I just think they take for granted with a tablet and letter of law. But it is what binds this country. It is the most precious thing that we have. When Rex Masai was being buried, the first victim of these extrajudicial killings, the 2 symbolic instruments that hold Kenya together, that the parents were given by the Gen Zs, was the Kenyan Constitution and the Kenyan flag. When they were asked who is the leader of the Gen Zs, they said, why look for a person? It is this constitution. If you obey the constitution and live by it, we will not be where we are. And I think that's the message that the president ought to get, that he can do all this, but it will look like a movement of the musical chairs if he does not pay more attention that he wakes up every day and say, which of my action today may offend which clause.
True.
Thank you very much. And
Do I do my parting shot?
Yes, you can do your parting
Yeah.
shot.
He's
and
doing the second parting
no,
shot.
parting shot based on what he said.
Yes.
I think
He's
was
the lawyer.
also- I think it was a good thing
Yeah.
that the president started by acknowledging the wrongs that have been done to the populace, and the president going ahead to even say the families will be compensated. I want to go further and say the phone call that President Ruto used, or took the phone line that he used the last time he was speaking to Kenyans, asking them, kama mbolea imefika. Take the phone call, Mr. President. Take that phone handset and call the parents of the 50+ individuals who lost their lives. Talk to them, console them, apologize to them as the president, call them to State House, mkunywe chai, then compensate them.
Well,
NZAU, before you do your parting shot, I'll throw something to you. The president was very busy that time, and you remember the song he used for his campaign, Sipangwingwi, and all of a sudden, anguka nayo. Use those two words.
no, clearly amepangwa na Gen Zs. Amepangwa na Gen Zs.
Yes.
He made, you haven't played the clip where he said he will not allow, opposition into government.
Yes.
But he has now allowed them in broad daylight. He has now incorporated the things he kept complaining. So the realities of power are slightly different from when you are on the podium and you want to excite the people. Things really on the ground, unasema vitu kwa ground ni different. So that is very, very clear now to us and to all of us from seeing what the president has done in the last few days. But now to my parting shot, I agree with everything Tanui has said, and also Ken. I think it's a moment for the country. This Katiba, the Katiba which is here, sit next to Ken, this document, the problem we have is that we passed a document in 2010. The president, he can get away with it and say he never voted for it. But like Tanui said, he's already the president. But, we got a document and we continued like business as usual. And yet, there are certain values required of us to change in the manner we conduct ourselves. Today, we are the media demos. Media trying to reassert its place in a democratic society. And that should never be a fight. It is a given in a democracy that media plays a very significant role. But we have seen in the last 2 years since the President Ruto came to power, through the appointed state officers like the ones we have mentioned here, claw back on media freedom in a manner that is like insulting this it's like tearing this constitution, or using it as a toilet paper. Remember, Gado once drew a very famous cartoon where he drew some people's high state officers just using this constitution as a toilet paper. And that's what has happened. The media plays a very, very key role in a democracy, and it should be respected, should be given its space. And we saw state officers working day and night to claw back, and not just claw back, but to frustrate and to basically undermine media freedom. I think the biggest lesson the people have been appointed today and last week, and once they are vetted, the high state officers, is to learn and to know the place where the media is so important in the things they are going to be doing, including the president, in supporting the president. You recall that I think someone once told a cabinet minister that I'll be here to write your obituary. I tell my friends who are in power that they should never forget that the journalists they see.
You meant political obituary.
Yeah, political obituary. Yeah, exactly. So, thank you for that. But the journalists they see, the media, the fourth estate, it's an estate. It will always be there. It's like in civil service in government. There are guys who are in civil service at Harambee House who will have always been there. They will always be there until they leave the scene, and they control a lot of things on what is happening in Harambee House. So the media as an estate and as the one which checkmates these other institutions is very, very, very key. And if you are appointed as a state officer, you should mind what you say, what you do, how you facilitate journalists or media to conduct its work. It's very, very important. Otherwise, those guys will be there. They will be writing your political obituary. And it's already happening. So it's a lesson for all of them that they should mind what they do and what they say.
I
think Nzau, you really captured it very well about the role of media, and Tanui today was dressed in the shirt for maandamano.
Yeah, I was actually
Aliogopa kama mimi kusalimiwa, so hatukwenda.
Lakini nyinyi mshasalimiwa.
recipients of very painful messages. But as you said, 90%, almost 95% were people, young people actually telling you, we don't know you as a person, but we know you by your work.
Endelea.
Endelea na hiyo kazi.
Yeah.
Okay. We know. But you wanted to know my parting shot?
Yes.
Forget about the white shirt. I'm adding jeans and t-shirts because of the week. But today we were supposed to be on the street.
Yes.
I think President RUTO would have. I've covered many presidents. I have all of them. I've been in the President Moi and all his tough times and best times. Moi Kibaki is best times and the worst. Uhuru said RUTO was in all this. From 90, I think as an assistant minister, director of election in Kami 97 and all that. The thing I see is a struggle is that the president has a mental struggle in the place of his presidency at this time in Kenyan history. I think at times he's torn between a one-party system where the president's decision is final and where things are done in the order according to the older constitutional order. So I think he struggles to elevate his presidency to fit into the changing times and the issue, the constitution we are talking about. So it would not be rude, but I think he's trying to show he would have excelled at best in the older constitutional order. But Mr. President, things have changed. The yardstick that people use on you is so different. They do not know where you have come from. The younger people, the demands are about today and their jobs tomorrow and their security and the place of those who we burn a lot of money on education. What does it? How does it come and help them? They need. I remember I said here the other day that probably the word mama mboga and boda is derogatory, that it implies lack of education. But those are not the people we have now. They are unfortunate. They may be selling boga on the sidewalk, but they are not illiterate and they are not politically. They are not. They don't lack that political consciousness. They care about this country, and that's why they say, the older generation, you have made your own blunders. It is time for you to step aside. We deconstruct this political order, set of values, and remove this entitlement, and we go to meritocracy. And I said, when you look at these people, the things that the president needs to look at is the changing circumstances, the demands that are being made by people who have no regard to tribe. And I told you last week, one of the things we need to celebrate about what the Gen Zs have done is not just that they have confined the president back in Kenya to work without flying out, that they have stopped politicians from abusing the judge and donating money, dominating what is a sacred space. They have talked about, do not talk about tax before you switch off the tax of corruption and wastages. So this thing is changing. So the president has to look at it. And if there's a place that you need to look at, is start with that small function in Eldoret town, where youths confronted the governor, the former governor, Mandago, the deputy governor, Chiroro, the current governor, Kutimoja, and they were discussing their fate and saying, you have sorted out your children, what about us? And if you remember, at that time, one of the girls who spoke, who is now one of the one in the forefront of the agencies, Tarus. Yes. Remember, one of the things that after that, Senator Ladama, our friend, very, very liberal politician, very, very forward-looking, made this mistake of saying, oh, this is a very good girl, I need to reward her. She shopped to work in my office. Did you remember the reply that Master Tarus said?
She declined.
She declined. And for two reasons. Said, one, I am not alone. So it's not about me, Master Tarus, being given a job. That 1 billion shillings has been lost. Taken, actually, I think 1.2 billion, the case in Nakuru. But more poignant in what she said was, you are a senator, you should be spending more time discussing with your fellow senator, Mandako, about our money, not offering one person a job. You see, that's a mental shift.
Yeah.
So when President Ruto is a president at a time in the history of this nation when things have changed, and he needs to change and move with it. This issue of imperial presidency that operates outside the law, it will always catch him. NZAU and my friend Ken, you are lawyers. You know the prospects of this. You can almost tell the prospects of the cases that are coming against this cabinet. That the same list of the recycled ministers is being challenged. There's another case that is coming about forcing a referendum. The agencies are going to force a recall clause, something that was looked at it this year, and it is like it's just a piece of useless sentences. They are going to it, and they read it, that this is the government you signed. We are going to operationalize it. Finally, I said, and I still continue to relish in this, that the value of political currency, money, in politics as a translation of politics has been undermined by time. The issue where presidents used to rush and call the disgruntled and give the money, and then people ugali. Hata wakuji kula ugali, they are just hammering you from there on the level of how loyal are you
to this constitution.
To this constitution.
Yes.
They don't need you. You don't even know who to call. Which begs the question, and I have no answer. Let's wait for what the agencies will say next, because this thing has not closed. I've crossed the mic.
I think you captured it very well. What will Gen Z say?
We wait.
We wait.
We wait. They are doing their vetting online.
So
Let's
you can
see.
do for us an outro, since you kept us here waiting.
I didn't keep anyone waiting, but thank you so much, Charles, for always hosting the podcast and allowing us to share with Kenyans what we know from the inside. You know, we always have a view from the inside. TANUI, your wisdom, we learn every single day. And NZAU, MUSAU, thank you so much for coming. And keep watching. We'll keep having this conversation. Tonight I have an interesting show. I know that's the reason why I'm being told to close. So the show tonight is about what the president has been attempting to do over the last 5 weeks. And I was just clicking my phone to see who was coming, and it's just gone off. So we are having advocates in the house, deliberately. So we are having former LSK chairperson Eric Theuri. He brings a good perspective and a balance in the conversation tonight. Alutalala Mukwana is also an advocate of the High Court. Pulled one side the other time, but right now he's also joined his agency. He says he's a Gen Z, and he's trying now to walk the straight and narrow in terms of the Constitution. So he falls into this. We have Willis Otieno, speaks his mind, shoots from the hip. He's not afraid to say his attitude.
Ponky.
Yes, picky ponky. And the last advocate we are having, I'm just forgetting this because my phone has gone off. But basically, we are 4 advocates and a lawyer tonight in studio, and we are going to be asking the question, what next? Because we know what has happened, and we say President Ruto has used this crisis to sort out his political problem, but has this crisis shown him anything? Has he learned from it? So that's beginning 9 p.m.
Yeah, begin. Make sure you begin with the quote that he said. Every sad event also has its an opportunity.
Yeah.
So he himself said. So
He said, yeah.
try and, as you go through it, flesh out what opportunity that may be
Is
there.
available.
Thank you, gentlemen. I think we meet again.
Yeah.
Same place, same time next week.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Asante.